Imagine a man so brilliant he could redesign time itself. Yet every night he cried alone because he feared Allah was not pleased with him. This is the unbelievable, emotional, hidden story of Omar Khayyam, the poet, the astronomer, the mathematician, and the seeker of Allah. People know his poetry, but almost no one knows the secret that changed his destiny forever. Today, you will hear the truth that history buried, but his heart never forgot. The hidden Islamic journey of Omar Khayyam, emotional story. Omar Khayyam was not born into greatness. He grew into it slowly, painfully, like a star forced to shine through clouds that never stopped gathering. And every step of his life felt like a conversation between the earth beneath his feet and the heavens he constantly sought, for he was a man who carried within his heart both the thirst of a poet and the precision of a mathematician. And yet, even with all that knowledge, his soul trembled in the quiet of the night when he wondered whether Allah was pleased with him. And so his story begins in his shaper, where the young Omar would sit under the vast Persian sky, staring at the stars as if they were verses waiting to be revealed, listening to the whispers of wind that felt like reminders of a greater truth. He worked tirelessly, studying the Quran, astronomy, geometry, and philosophy until his mind became a lantern. But inside that lantern was a flame that flickered with doubt and longing, for he feared that brilliance without purpose was nothing but a shadow. And this fear followed him even when he moved to Samarkand, where he rose to fame for solving algebraic equations that others thought impossible, writing treatises that would one day shape civilizations. Yet deep down, he felt something missing, something that all his formulas could not solve, a restlessness that felt like a call from Allah telling him that knowledge without humility was a heavy burden to carry. When Malik Shah appointed him to reform the Persian calendar, Omar worked for months with sleepless eyes, calculating movements of the sun and moon until the new Jalali calendar was born, more accurate than calendars of the world at that time. And while the world celebrated him, he spent that night alone staring at the stars, whispering, "O Allah, let this knowledge be a witness for me, not against me." For he knew that fame can lift a man into air or drown him in pride. And he feared the second more than the first, the rumors that Omar doubted. Faith spread like fire among people who never met him, people who never saw him fall into prostration in the depth of night when no one was watching, begging Allah to purify his heart from confusion and pride. And though his quatrains later became famous for philosophical reflections, his private notebooks revealed prayers, tears, and confessions of a man who wanted closeness to Allah more than he wanted the world's applause. Once, while traveling alone on horseback across the desert, Omar stopped to drink from a small oasis only to find an old dervish sitting under a palm tree. And the man looked at him with eyes that pierced like truth itself, asking, "Scholar of the stars, have you found the one who made them?" And Omar felt his heart shake because no one had ever asked him something so simple yet so heavy. He sat down next to the dervish and confessed that he had spent years studying the universe, but feared he was losing the creator in the details, and the dervish replied, "Knowledge is a lamp, but Allah is the light. If you chase the lamp and forget the light, you will live in darkness." And these words followed Omar for years, echoing inside him louder than any applause from kings, louder than any praise from scholars. As he grew older, the weight of time pressed upon him, especially after Malik Shah died and the political climate changed, forcing Omar to leave his position and travel quietly, teaching small groups of students who loved him deeply because he taught them not just numbers but humility, reminding them that every equation is a reminder that Allah has written destiny with perfect balance. One night in Isfahan, while reviewing astronomical charts, he suddenly felt a deep sadness wash over him, as if the stars above were mourning something inside him. And he realized he had been running his whole life, running from expectations, from fame, from people's misunderstandings, but most of all, from his own heart that wanted peace. So he closed his books, performed wudu with trembling hands, and prayed 2 rak'ahs with such sincerity that he cried until the prayer mat became wet beneath him. In that prayer, he found a peace he had searched for in equations, and he whispered, "O Allah, you are enough for the one who seeks you." And that night became the turning point of his soul. After that, his poetry shifted from questioning to yearning, from sadness to surrender, from doubt to certainty, and people could feel the transformation even if they didn't understand it. He spent his final years teaching children the Quran, walking alone in gardens, writing reflections about how life is fleeting, how the world is like a shadow that follows you only until sunset, and how the real home is with Allah. One of his students once asked him, "Master, you have studied everything, mathematics, stars, philosophy. What have you learned?" And Omar smiled softly and said, "I learned that the heart finds peace only when it bows to the one who created it." And these words became his final legacy, deeper than any poetry attributed to him. As he grew older, the world around him changed. Dynasties fell, rulers rose and disappeared like dust and wind, but Omar remained steady in his devotion, praying every morning before sunrise, reading Quran with tears, and reminding his students that life is unpredictable, but Allah never changes. On the last morning of his life, he performed wudu, opened the Quran, and placed his finger on a verse about returning to Allah, and a serene smile crossed his face as if he saw something beautiful beyond the veil of the world. He called his student and said, "When I die, bury me where the rain will fall on my grave." And later that day, as he rested against the wall, with the Quran still open in front of him, he returned to his Lord with peaceful breath, leaving behind a legacy that centuries later would inspire millions. When they buried him in a shaper, they placed him under fruit trees, and every spring, petals fell softly on his grave, exactly as he predicted, and people said that Allah honored the man who sought truth with sincerity. Today, people remember his poetry, his mathematics, his astronomy, but few know the emotional journey of his soul, how he struggled, how he cried in sujood, how he feared Allah, how he searched for meaning in every sunrise, and how he finally found peace not in books or fame, but in surrender to the one who created him, proving that even the greatest minds need Allah, and that true wisdom is not in discovering the universe, but in discovering your place before the creator of the universe. If this story touched your heart, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who loves knowledge, someone who feels lost, someone who needs to remember that even the greatest minds bow down to Allah in the end. Subscribe to Deen in Minute for more heart-touching Islamic stories, spiritual reminders, and real journeys of the soul. Every share becomes sadaqah jariyah for you. Let's spread the light together. 1 minute, one heart, one story at a time.